Hi, everybody. This is Carmen with Experts Dig In for Doggies for Dementia, and this is our YouTube channel for Doggies for Dementia Foundation, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we raise awareness to help reduce stigma, isolation, and loneliness through education, and of course, gifting those beautiful photo sessions to families impacted by Alzheimer's and other types of dementia. Okay, now I got to tell you, I'm really excited today because we have guest Jennifer. Jennifer is a longtime caregiver for her parents and most recently for her mother. And she's here to tell us about her experience learning about dementia while caring for her mother, and such an interesting story. So interesting that she went ahead and wrote a book called Fearless Caregiving and put a lot of work into talking about, into helping people. You will see. And so listen, welcome, Jennifer.
Yes, thank you, Carmen. I am so happy to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. You know, I think the authors when it comes to talking about dementia and things, we write because we have big hearts and we want to help others save some of the steps that maybe we learned in the hard way, right? And so, why don't you talk a little bit about learning in the beginning of caring for your mom?
Okay, well, when I cared for my mom, I was living in Bahamas. So that's actually where I'm from. So I relocated almost 10 years ago now to Florida. But in learning about dementia for her, it was an ordeal. Um, it was a process that was truly, truly hard because I didn't know that she was, you know, in dementia. I just knew that she was not herself. She was, forgetting things that we had just discussed. She was forgetting names, and she was just a little bit more difficult to handle than she usually was. I knew something was wrong. So I decided to do a little research on my own, and it was difficult, like I said, because I wasn't sure what I was looking for. And I myself was new to Google. I was like, Google, who's Google? But I found out.
That new Google thing, what's that, huh?
Exactly. I'm like, okay, who's that?
So did you put in symptoms or what you were seeing and
I
look for
did.
what are common?
Yeah, so that's what
Wow.
I did. So the first thing I started looking for was like, changes in an older parent, changes in mood, and difficulty, with remembering things, and those types of searches led me to, the dementia aspect, and that was a
Yeah.
whole new revelation.
Oh,
Like, okay, that's interesting, dementia, because I hadn't really heard it before, I didn't know anyone who had it. So it was a new experience, just learning about it. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay.
I bet.
Some of the things that it talked about, I realized, hey, I'd seen these in my mom before, so now I could, I had something to relate back to reference why she was acting a certain way, was a little bit more, distressed about certain things, in her behavior. So um, then, of course, was finding someone to corroborate that dementia was actually the issue.
Right,
And
right.
versus,
Yeah, so I know my experience on living on an island is that the resources can be a little bit more limited than they are in the mainland, and just the physicians, the number of physicians, period, and then to find someone who knows about dementia, which is a specialty really all of its own, and how do you deal with that? And I
yes.
don't know, did it take a while for you to find someone who would listen or understand it, or
It
because
was,
you know we learn more every day, and this is what, 10 years ago for you too
it
at this
was,
point?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
years ago. And so, it wasn't the way it is now where, the doctors are more specialized in their practices.
Mhm.
So on the island, I didn't know of any physician that specialized in dementia,
Mhm.
but I knew her general, practitioner. So he was a longtime family practitioner. So the first step was in contacting him, setting an appointment with him. And then the next step was convincing her to go.
Oh, oh, yeah, yes. And this is a problem.
It was a problem because, right then she didn't see anything wrong. She
Mhm.
didn't know that, she had any issues, So something wrong in her mind would be, I don't have a cold, I don't have the flu, I am fine. Why
Mm.
do I need to go to the doctor? You
Um,
know, so,
wh-
um,
I just thought of a question. So your mom's thinking everything's fine, and you're gonna obviously need to tell that physician what you suspect, maybe. What was that like? I mean, did you do that in front of your mom? And this is a problem many people have, by the way. From my clinical experience, I'll tell you, because families would call me ahead of time. I don't want to talk in front of mom, or I want to tell dad because I don't want to be disrespectful. So how did you handle that? Because that's a challenge.
yes, and it really was a challenge. So, I respected her, and what I did, I said, okay, what I'm going to do, I knew where the physician's office was. It was not very far from where I worked. So on one day, I stopped in to the office and I just spoke with the administrator that was in charge of the office.
Uh-huh.
And I said, hey, I have this appointment, coming up, the date, the time, and I want to tell you the reason why, because I'd like you to relay it to the doctor
Right.
ahead of me getting there. So he knows what the issues are, that I'm seeing and what I need him to address with my mom.
Oh, I so love that. Okay, you get
Yeah.
applause for that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. You deserve big applause for that because
Thank you.
you really, really do. You need to be you have to be proactive and think like, okay, what can I
Yeah.
do here? And because there's for a family member that, and
Mhm.
when you're sitting there and the person's like, I'm fine, I'm not sick, and you need to say what you notice, and like, I don't remember that ever happening. Well, boy, yeah, that's the problem. Like, that's not, it is really, really hard.
Yes.
Really hard.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were even times I would have asked like my medical assistant, I'm like, why don't you guys go walk in the hall? I'm going to watch you walk. And then I would look at them and talk to the family really quickly and say, I'm going to catch up with you later on the phone because I have some questions, but this is not the time or place.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it is, I mean, it really does feels you got to do what's right for the person, but it's disrespectful sometimes too. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody talking about me like that.
No, and that's the thing, and I shared such a good relationship with my mother, and the last thing I wanted to do was to make her feel that, I was not valuing her, I
Mhm.
was not respecting her in any
Right.
way, you
Yes.
know. So like, hey, I
Not,
have to find a way to deal with this because
yeah.
I want to help her. That's
Right.
the goal,
I know.
you know.
And it's like you're not believing them if you go ahead anyway. You're like, what do you think? I'm a
Yeah,
liar? Oh, I know.
I know,
No.
right? So So what I did, Carmen, I even took it a step further with my mom. So because I still needed to convince her that she had to go. And so I said, okay, well, you're getting older. And as you get older, you want to make sure that you're as healthy as possible. So we need to make sure that your vitamin levels are, correct. And, they
Oh,
just give a general overview of you to make sure
right.
everything. And that's
Well,
how I to go.
and that's not a lie because that's true. They have to check all those too because it's possible. It is possible that symptoms of dementia can be brought on by thyroid problems and a variety of other things. And it looks like people do much better.
Yes,
So, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that our screens are kind of freezing here and there. And I think,
Here and
this
there.
right now, while we're filming, while this may not be aired right then, there's a hurricane between us. You're in Florida, I'm in Texas. I think we're
Yes,
experiencing that. Yeah, I don't know
so
what I don't know about electronics. There you go. But I think that's part of the problem. It's a hurricane, it's not us.
it's the hurricane.
Yeah, it's the
We're
hurricane.
doing our best to weather the
Uh,
storm.
you're right, right, right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, how long did you care for your mom?
Actually, it was a period of 11 years.
Oh, okay.
11 years. So I took her to live with me and my son in our home. And that was the first sign that I saw that something was wrong because she valued her independence, which I do. I mean, most of us do, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
she was living in her own home, but I was doing everything for her because my mom did not drive.
Mm,
So all of her utility bills would pay for her take her grocery shopping, any appointments that she had, any visits to family or friends or whatever to church,
oh.
I did that. Um,
And
but she wasn't really happy to want to leave her home.
um,
So
I think it gets scary when
that's
things
scary.
aren't clear. Yeah, and so you were caring for your father before this. While you were taking care of your father, your mom was doing okay though. I mean, you didn't see it
Yeah,
then.
I
Yeah.
did not. Yeah, I did not see
Yeah.
it then. She was vibrant. She was in charge. She was just there for him. So anything he needed she was making sure I got taken care of. And she was on top of things. So I didn't see
Um,
anything in her at
well,
that point.
yeah, and caregiving is hard. And so, yeah, I think we would all like to know for those 10, 11 years then, and that's after you had cared for your father. How did you do yourself? How did you manage? And I imagine that's a big part of your book too, Fearless Caregiving. How did you manage? I mean, you said you have a son also, and you're taking care of yourself, and you have your work, and you're caring for your mom too, who is declining.
Mhm.
And what was that like for you?
It was an unforgettable experience. It was really, really, really tough because I was working in a very high stress, demanding job in corporate world. I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I was the executive assistant to the general manager of the company. And then I fell into the HR generalist role as well. So I was handling everything from benefits to a full life cycle of payroll, pensions,
Both
everything,
jobs?
both jobs
With the head
simultaneously.
honcho and HR?
Yes,
Holy smokes.
yes,
You
doing it all.
needed a magic wand, Jennifer. Like,
Thank you.
I don't know. How did you hold up? I could just like feel my body crumbling just thinking about it. But
I know it was tough because I would find myself always racing. So I'm racing from one thing to the next. Okay, I'm dealing with this issue, that issue, this deadline, the next deadline. Okay. But it worked. And
yeah.
so I had lots of people that would say to me, "Hey, just make this look so easy." Because I never missed deadlines, I just got it done, even if I took work home. But that was the job side. So I had my son. So I didn't make all of those appointments at the school. So they're having this event or they're having that event. I remember one day I really tried desperately. I'm like, okay, I've been missing so many of his events at school. I'm like, I'm gonna get there for this one. And I got there drove up and I'm racing. And I got there onto the field. And when I found him, he said, "Oh, we're finished." My heart sank. I'm like,
Oh, Oh,
And it was such a valiant effort on my part,
yeah. Oh, I'm
And,
just feeling that for you. Yeah.
and you can't, you can't replace the time that you lost, those. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just losing so much of his childhood, not getting to share in so
Yeah.
many things there with him, as, you know, it,
Oh,
yeah, it's
yeah.
really hard. It's really hard.
Oh.
You
It's
know,
hard just talking about it now, huh?
yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I had to take care of my mom. And finding out that she was not well, and then my body just started to, it just started to resist, because it was like, this is just too much, because every day my clock would go off at 5 a.m. That was Sunday to Sunday, you
Oh,
know
yeah.
5 a.m., getting up because I have things to do. There is no one that I can call on. My son is too young. My mom is elderly. There's no one else in the home but me, So even if I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, I still have to make sure there's food on the table. I they're well, their medications. My son was asthmatic, and there were times I would have to take off from work just to be home with him because I did not want him hospitalized, And so I remember two experiences where, um, one, he was so ill, he could not walk. So he was about 7 or 8 years old, and I had to lift him, and here I am in my heels and business suit, right? Because I'm thinking I'm going to work after I take him to the doctor, then I'll take him to school. Didn't happen, and the the doctor says, he really needs to be admitted to hospital today. But here we are, we're on the island. And I'm like, okay, if he's admitted to hospital, that's going to be a problem for me because I have my mom at home. I can't leave her there by herself. Him in hospital, I can't, it's like, what do I do? So I'm like, can I administer the medication myself? And he said, it's going to be tough because it has to be administered every 4 hours,
Oh,
24 hours a day for 3 days consecutively.
oh.
So that's day and night, every 4 hours. 2 sets of medications. And it was hard.
And you did that at home?
I did that at
Mom,
home.
caring for your mom.
Yeah.
Okay, so how long was it before you fell apart? Because I was gonna say, we're human beings, and
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
just I can't imagine time for you to take for yourselves to
I
recoup, right? We have to recoup a little.
we do. We do. Well,
Yeah.
I was good for about 8 years. For about eight
Wow.
years, just doing it all. You know. And I think because I had youth on my side, so it helped. And but after that point, my body just stopped. It stopped playing my games.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this.
Right. And so, what about, like long-term care or assisted living, memory care in the Bahamas? Does that
Oh
exist?
no, that
No.
does not exist.
Yeah,
That
that's what
does
I
not
thought.
exist. Yeah. So the resources are so limited. There were at that point there were 3 homes for the elderly. You know, and the one that was closest to me was about maybe 3 minutes away from where I lived, and they had nurses that would come and care for the family um, members that were there. And I, I spoke with the administrator of the facility. Told her I wanted to just get my mom checked in, and it was tough. I mean, I can tell you right now, it was not an easy decision. It took
Uh-huh.
me several weeks to really relent myself to
Mhm.
putting her in the home, and then I did, and I regretted it the very next day. The very
And
next day I regretted it because I went to visit my mom at that home, and her fingers were all black and blue. They were so swollen because she had obviously been eaten on her hands, and they, they used some type of medication on her, and she wasn't able to speak. She went in there speaking. The next day, she's not able to speak. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, it was heart wrenching. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I wanted to take her out, but I'm like, okay, now how do I get her to speak, you know? And, but I had so much um, issues myself, the aide that we had at home, she was afraid to keep my mom because at that point my mom had become aggressive, and more combative. She was wandering off more often, and just trying to keep her inside the house was an issue.
Uh-huh.
Aid, like I said, they were so close. She didn't want to do anything that would hurt her. And I didn't have the physical ability, to
Right.
do anything to help her.
Yeah. Because by now you're having your own health problems.
Right.
The aid that you had for at home to help out here and there, it's huh?
Yeah. Can you repeat that for me? I think because
Yeah, sure. So you're having your own health problems, and then also you've got someone who comes in periodically to give you a little bit of a break and care for your mom, but it's becoming a bit too much for her to manage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, and I
I think I lost you again. So
limited.
sorry.
Yeah, the resources on an island are so limited. So then
Yes.
what happened next?
Yeah, so I had to, just remind myself that my mom would have to be there for a while. And she was not the best, situation. And she stayed there, and she was there for less than 1 year. And I think it was just after, it was just after Christmas, early that January, I got a call saying that she was unresponsive,
Oh.
And so she was hospitalized, and of course, she never spoke again, and she eventually passed.
Oh
You know,
my goodness.
but it was, she didn't get the best of care,
Right.
and so even though I knew, that is a decision I had to make, I wasn't happy with the outcome.
Right. No, no, I'm sure not. I
Yeah,
can't imagine what emotions you're left with too. I mean,
yeah,
you're in a position that has a choice between bad and worse, and oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So, writing the book was very cathartic,
yeah,
in helping me to express, some of those emotions. And
yeah,
even though I still, to this day, I become very emotional, just talking about my mom, and the painful side of it.
yeah.
I, through this book, I'm able to share how, we can avoid some of the things that I went through in
Hmm.
taking care of my mom,
Yeah,
because you want to make sure that while you have your parent, that you are cherishing them, so that you are sure that you take the opportunity to make good memories and make lasting memories, and how you can keep those memories, with you for
right.
a long time,
Yeah.
so
Good for
that,
you.
yeah,
Yeah. So
pivot
that
has
has
really
been
helped.
healing to take that, and then even so, you're working on your, because you don't do it now. If you're working on your master's, are you
Yes,
going to do life coaching, and which
yes,
to help people?
yeah,
I get that. It's like when you've been through something, you're like, yeah. See, the greatest thing would be if nobody ever has to go through this ever, like
precise,
I did. It's just
yeah,
that intense.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
that's the
So
main thing, to help someone else,
yeah,
help someone else, so they don't have to have the pain that I went
right.
through, make it easier for them, so that's
Yeah.
what I want to do.
Right. Well, I so love that. And we'll be posting where they can get your book. But for now, where can we go to purchase Fearless Caregiving?
Right now, it's available on Amazon.com.
Okay. So
Yes.
Amazon, super cool.
Yes.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're friends now. So as we're
Yeah.
sharing things and talking, I know other things will come up because I really would love to get your book into the hands of many people who are going through very similar, each one is unique and we're all unique in the path, but the underlying all those emotions that go through, including the intense stress and the overwhelming fatigue, and then seeing yourself get ill, and you have a younger son and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need to be there too.
Yes.
And how I just, yeah, I can't imagine. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, thank you so much for writing that book and take
Thank
his
you.
yeah, I know that's not an easy thing. I don't know about you, but I thought, oh yeah, this will take about 3 months and I'll just kind of write about it. It'll just be da da da. And 3 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just, I know I'm going to get this done.
I,
It'll be done any day now. And
yeah,
thousands of dollars later, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't know
yeah.
what was I thinking?
I
Wow.
and that's the thing because you don't think about that. You just have that experience that you want to share. You want to help other people. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I jumped in, feet first. So now I'm feet first, and now my head is covered with that. I have the joy of expression.
Oh, I get you there. I know, I know. And I thought if anybody would have told me, I probably wouldn't have listened. It was like I'm on mission from God, right? I am just going to do
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And, it was all worth it. But the
Yeah.
reality of it, unless you're in the Times bestseller, a lot of people will not get your book, and nor will you make any kind of income from it, just to talk about that
Mhm.
piece. And it does cost. So
Yeah.
the gratitude then from our because you made that sacrifice to tell that story to help other people. And it's just testament to your big heart. You're, still a caregiver. You're caring for everyone else out there who's
Yeah.
going through it, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
Absolutely.
so love that. All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate this conversation. And it's not over. So y'all follow Doggies for Dementia on Instagram and Facebook. And Jennifer's handle is just like it sounds, only there's a period, just Jennifer on your things, right? So you can reach
Yeah.
out to her because I know a lot of you are having similar experiences. And as you can tell, she's really great. You'll learn a lot. Yeah, really, really wonderful. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Carmen. I really loved being here with you today. And thank
thank
you
you.
for sharing my
Ah,
book and my message. And
yeah.
hopefully I
Oh,
can help someone else out there. Thank you.
I think well, thank you all for tuning in to Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. And if there were some transmission problems, forgive us for that. There was a hurricane we can't do anything about, but I'll work on it afterwards. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.